Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to the Sunday services at Center for Spiritual Living, Denver. We are a loving and prospering community in the heart of Denver and online. We now conduct hybrid services, continuing our transmissions online weekly, as well as meeting in person on the first and third Sunday of each month at the historic Grant Avenue Community Center and Sacred Place, located at 216 South Grant Street, Denver, Colorado. All are welcomed here. A place, space, and face of love. We are a spiritual community practicing universal principles that enrich our lives. We are grateful that you have blessed us with your presence. While online, we'd love to know you're watching with us. Feel free to leave a comment and let everyone appreciate you. With everything going on, life can feel overwhelming. CSL Denver wants you to know we are here for you. Please know that our practitioners are available for personal prayer work. Our licensed spiritual practitioners' names and phone numbers are available on our website at csldenver.org. Or if you have a prayer request, feel free to email it to info@csldenver.org. For your convenience, you'll find clickable links in the description of this broadcast. Rev Elzia, along with all our guest speakers, practitioners, service coordinators, and musical inspirations, want you to know how truly grateful we are that you are with us today. Thank you for your continued support and participation in our services, workshops, and events, as well as providing financial contributions to our center. If you're interested in upcoming events and information, we send out weekly newsletters. Sign up by visiting www.csldenver.org. Presently, on the first and third Sundays of every month, we deliver services in a hybrid format where we meet in person at 216 South Grant Street. We will also continue to live stream all services on Facebook and YouTube every Sunday. Find us on our respective channels as well as on New Thought Media Network. At the conclusion of our service, we welcome you to connect in fellowship. Join us in person on the appropriate Sundays or on Zoom every week. If this will be your first time joining us online, please send an email to info@csldenver.org with fellowship in the subject line. We'll reply with the Zoom link. Again, thank you for your precious attention. Now prepare for engaging enlightenment.
Presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this
Good morning, everyone. My name is Teresa Cardenas, practitioner with CSL Denver. Our reading this morning is from Mark Nepo's book called More Together Than Alone, Discovering the Power and Spirit of Community in Our Lives and in the World. The oldest notions of community invoke an underlying network of living connection that is always present, whether we honor it or not. Most traditions offer a kindred name for the tribe of humanity, through which one person can sense and feel all persons. This timeless connection speaks to the innate sense of responsibility we are each born with to do our best to hold each other up, reflecting in our hearts the hearts of others. In Sanskrit, the word acacia refers to a collective presence and memory among human beings. In the West, we tend to ignore this, insisting we are separate and unattached. Yet there is molecular and biological evidence of our oneness and how our very presence influences each other, how being influences being. Consider that 2 living heart cells taken from different people and placed in a petri dish will, over time, find a third common beat. We can draw vitality and strength from these glimpses into the fabric of life, which affirm that we have an innate call to find each other and join. We could say this is the genetic basis for our impulse to community. Being alive is being part of the community of life. Remembering that we belong is an act of community. Acting out of this knowing is an act of compassion. We are all tied together in invisible places. Perhaps this is the secret to a compassionate society, to give to strangers until they no longer seem strange, and to let in others until the risk to care mysteriously adds to our life. Remembering who we are is the first step to remembering that we are all the same and that our well-being depends on each other. The challenges remain to receive truth from each other along the way and to help each other endure by lifting one another's heart. While we can neither save the world nor ignore it, we can better the world by reaching back for each other when we stumble. Being a citizen of the world requires us to keep the ways we are connected in view. And the Ernest Holmes quote, "The manifest universe is the body of God. All people are carnations of the one Spirit." And I will do a quick invitation before we invite our musician in. So just close your eyes and take a deep breath. And know that we are connected here in this community of CSL Denver. That as we hear the message this morning, we take that in and then just let it flow back out into the community as a ripple effect. That we are the people that are connected to each other, that are connected to the earth, and connected to the universal nature of God, connected to the omniscient power, that we just embrace that, integrate that into who we are, and we honor that this morning, no matter where we are, whether we are in a temple, whether we are in a church, a mosque, or in that grand cathedral, the earth cathedral, out in the nature of what it is that we so ultimately believe in, which is love. And so now we turn to Ray Davis, and he is playing Wide World. Thank you.
I have a special song for you today, a song that asks the question, what would life be like? Just everyday, ordinary life be like if everything was, everything was cool. And by that I mean everybody living in peace and harmony, joy, peace, loving kindness prevailing. What would it be like? This song is called Wide World. La, 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 la. I'm sitting outside with a cup of hot tea, checking out panorama of the world for me. I'm saying, how do you do? I got the sun in the sky and the earth under my feet, the wind blowing kisses and caresses all over me, saying, we love you. Gave it a wide world. Gave it a wide world. Well, the sweet Mr. Smitty on his nieces in town. He walks her puggle named Kitty, all bouncy black and brown. I'm singing, how do you do? And Miss Doris and Morris, they got married last June. She does yoga in the morning, he Thursday afternoon. I hear them saying, I love you, baby. Hated a wide world. All of us one underneath the sweet sun. It's a wide world. Yeah. Hated a wide world. So many souls to know and so much love to show. It's a wide world. Yes, yes. When I close my eyes, all I see is light, 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 love, all that's good and right. So with eyes wide open, I see the goodness and mercy just follow me all my days. All my days, all my days. I see the farmers market's got a lot of people today. They're living local and organic, and that's one way I'm saying. Hey, how y'all do? Well, there's a lady having trouble with the bags of the day, and right away another lady says, sister, have no care. I'll help you. I love you. Yeah. Ain't it a wide world? All of us one underneath the sweet sun. It's a wide world. Yes, yes. Ain't it a wide world? So many souls to know and so much love to show. It's a wide world. Yes, 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 yes. Well, ain't it a wide world? If a difference is to be, let it begin with me. It's a wide, wide world. Ain't it a wide world? So many souls to know and so much love to show. It's a wide, wide world. I got the moon sky and the earth under my feet. The saints and ancestors blowing blessings all over me. I can hear them say, we love you. We love you. Ooh.
Beautiful. Good morning, CSL Denver. Mark Gilbert here with you again. It's great to be back with you. Love that music by Ray. That was just wonderful. And thank you, Teresa, for that wonderful reading and prayer this morning, just setting the tone for us in our discussion as we continue exploring community this month. Our talk title today is The Oneness of Community. And it's part of a month-long exploration of the topic of the importance of community in our individual lives. In fact, many of our CSL centers are talking this month all about the topic of community. And if you're a subscriber to Science of Mind magazine or pick up the issues, you'll know that the issue this month is all about the exploration of community as well. I encourage you to check it out to go deeper with this particular topic that we're talking about. So in any case, let's jump into this topic this morning. What I really want to get you to recognize is where we're going is three key ideas. One is recognizing the importance of having community in our lives, having a sense of connectedness with others and how important that is. Secondly, I want us to examine what we see as our community to ensure we're not intentionally or unintentionally excluding anyone simply because they may be different from us. And third is to bring this into the spiritual realm, to consciously seek to connect with a broader community, including getting out of our comfort zones a little bit so we can experience this greater diversity of life, to consciously make genuine connections with all people, to grow our spiritual sense of oneness. Now, that's where we're going, and I'm not going to repeat all of that throughout the talk. What I'd like you to do is to contemplate three questions as we go through this discussion this morning. As we go through this topic, I want you to, as your mind is listening to me, but sometimes wanders, I want it to wander into an exploration of three questions. And those three questions are, who do I consider my community? Who do you consider your community? Secondly, do I have multiple communities of which I am a part? In other words, who are those multiple communities of which you are existing in simultaneously in this moment? And finally, are there opportunities to expand your sense of community? Where are those opportunities where you can expand that sense of community? Who's your community? Do you have multiple communities? And where are there opportunities for you to expand those communities? We'll revisit those questions for the next few minutes, but I want you to be contemplating on them as we go through this talk this morning. Now, the first thing is, since I'll do this myself, is like, who is my community? Well, as I look at that, I've got several communities that I feel like I belong to. I can look at it that I've got first my close friends and family. And secondly, I have my broader Centers for Spiritual Living community of which I interact, including the good friends here at CSL Denver and folks that I work with in other aspects of my ministry. I've also got some online communities. There's different groups that I deal with in an online environment where we have common interest. And so I feel like those are my communities as well. And finally, I feel like my community sort of cascades out, that there is this, I belong to the city that I live in, the state, my country, and ultimately the world. In fact, as we contemplate who our communities are, I'd like you to consider seeing it. It's sort of like concentric circles, where those that are the closest and know you the deepest and the ones you count on through thick and thin, that if there's an emergency, you can contact them. There's that core group of that inner circle of your community that you have that is the deepest and closest people to you. But that as you go outward, as you cascade outward with these concentric circles, you can see that there's other communities that are a part of you, that you are also a part of. You may be a little bit less close to them, but there's still a community as you as well. And in fact, getting out to that broader community and seeing ultimately to expand that vision to see that your life is incorporating and involving hopefully the entire world in some capacity as a community of you. I'm personally blessed with a very close family. Um, we have, and I've mentioned this, I think, before in some of the other talks. I have my wife Mary and my dog Penny. It's probably my core family when you get down to it. But I have a group of about 20 to 25 people that I consider my closest family. That includes not only my wife Mary and I, but my ex-wife and her husband. It also includes the 5 children from my first marriage, their spouses, their kids who are, of course, my grandkids. And then there's these other people that have become just part of the family by choice that I consider just that nuclear group for myself. I'm blessed to have this group because they're so supportive, and we do things collectively as a unit that really give great meaning and value to my life and really bring joy to my experience. Hopefully you have some similar group. As I'm talking about this, I want you to be thinking about who is your group as well. My particular group, we are blessed in the last, I'd say 6 or 7 years, we've planned vacations together. In fact, this past year here in 2022, we did 2 group gatherings. One was a camping trip up in the mountains of Colorado where we had 20 something of us all camping out and this one location. It was just a beautiful and great experience. And then this recently over the Thanksgiving weekend, we all took a trip down to Palm Springs, California, rented out an entire motel. We had the motel to ourselves as our family. This motel ringed, a swimming pool and a hot tub, and we went off and did events either individually or in small groups, or did large groups together. And what made this even more special for me was that the Saturday night of that week was my birthday, and right before the evening was getting together, they ushered myself and a bunch of us and all the kids back into this little room, and we played bingo for a little while. And then I think they were just actually keeping me busy, keeping me out of the way because they were setting up a surprise. Now, for those of you who know me a little bit, I got to tell you that I am this big Bob Dylan fan. I have been a Bob Dylan fan since I was actually in grade school. There's a long story there I won't go into, but I have seen him so many times. And if you take somebody who is like that person who's the ultimate Bob Dylan fan is a 10, and somebody who maybe has heard the name as a 0 or a 1, I'm probably somewhere in the 7 to 8 group. And having seen him in concert so many times and knowing most of his music and have all of his recordings and plus a lot of unreleased stuff as well. So I just love Dylan. He speaks to me on so many deep levels, and my kids knew that. And here it is, my birthday night, and we're back in this room with bingo. And then they say, "Oh, let's bring everybody out now." And as they bring everybody out, and I want to show you some pictures from this particular time. What they had done is my family had hired this guy by the name of Jamie Daniels. Jamie is the leader of a Bob Dylan tribute band called the Jack of Hearts. They're based out of Los Angeles, and my family had brought Jamie in to give a private concert to us here in the motel. So we're in the courtyard of the motel. And go ahead to the next picture. What you're seeing is him giving us this concert. Now, again, I said there's about 20 so of us in this thing, and you can see my wife Mary and I sitting there over to the left-hand side in the photo. But the rest of the group is coming and going, because not only did we have this concert where we could, call out Dylan songs, and Jamie was, singing them, and it was just interacting with us, and it was just this glorious, wonderful experience. They also had hired a food truck. Let's go to the next photo. And this food truck was set up right outside the entrance to the motel. And so everybody was coming and going and getting Mexican food out at the food truck. And we also took a little break because I didn't want to break away from the Dylan music. And so here I am standing and talking to Jamie during the break in the concert, so that we could have a little one-on-one interaction and get some Mexican food at the same time. And so it was just, but people were coming and getting their food and coming back and enjoying the music. Go to the next photo. And what you have here is that at the end of it, my 5 grown children, all in their 40s now, and I and Jamie got together and posed for this photo. It was just a wonderful and magical thing that was just one of the highlights of my life. I kept saying this was the best, birthday ever for me. So I am truly blessed by this close friend and group of friends, and we do so much together. And, and I would invite you to consider, who are those close friends? Who are those individuals? Because I think the more, we have a human need for closeness. We have a human need to feel connection. I would also argue that it's probably a spiritual need at some level, because ultimately the spiritual need is for us to feel a sense of connection to those who are outside of us. It's real easy to have this sense that I am me and this individual person. But that sense of the human desire for friendship and companionship and connection is really a spiritual need that's calling us out of this sense of individualism to connect with something greater. That's really part of our spiritual evolutionary journey, is to get out of the bounds of being this single individual, navigating through this life on planet Earth, and recognizing that you're part of a greater and grander expression of oneness. And the connections that we have with friends and family really serves to meet that need. It's a human need, but it's also a spiritual need. And one of the concerns, though, is that when we don't have that sense of community, when we don't feel there's anybody that we can call upon, it can lead to a sense of loneliness. And in fact, many people are saying that the United States, in this current times, is experiencing an epidemic of loneliness. You probably have heard that in recent times. And in fact, in a New York Times article that was written earlier this year, I just want to quote a few segments from it. They said that in small doses, loneliness is like hunger or thirst, a healthy signal you're missing something and to seek out what you need. But prolonged over time, loneliness can be damaging, not just to mental health, but also to physical health. Even before the pandemic, the United States Surgeon General Vivek Murthy said the country was experiencing an epidemic of loneliness, driven by the accelerated pace of life and the spread of technology into all of our social interactions. With this acceleration, he said, efficiency and convenience have edged out the time-consuming messiness of real relationships. The article goes on to say that the result is a public health crisis in the scale of the opioid epidemic or obesity. Dr. Murthy said that in 2018, a study by the Kaiser Family Foundation found that 1 in 5 Americans said they always or often felt lonely or socially isolated, and that the pandemic only exacerbated these feelings. In fact, in a recent citywide survey by New York's health department, they found that 57% of people said they felt lonely some or most of the time, and 2/3 felt they socially isolated in the prior month. Loneliness, Dr. Murthy said, has real consequences to our health and our well-being. Being lonely, like other forms of stress, increases the risk of emotional disorders like depression and anxiety and substance abuse. Less obviously, it also puts people at a greater risk of physical ailments that seem totally unrelated, like heart disease and cancer and stroke and hypertension, dementia, and premature death. In fact, in lab experiments, lonely people who were exposed to a cold virus were more likely to develop symptoms than people who were not lonely. And there's this often quoted meta-analysis by Brigham Young University, which compared the risk of loneliness and isolation. The effects of that were compared to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Many of us don't smoke, but we know the health risk of smoking. And to think that prolonged loneliness and isolation can have this sort of physical health effect upon us is startling and something to keep in mind. So ask yourself, as you listen to all of that about loneliness, do you have a community that's supporting you? Who is that close inner circle that you can call on? If you don't have that circle, what can you do to foster it and grow it? If you feel like you're isolated, then seek it and reach out for help. The resources Centers for Spiritual Living Denver and other resources in your particular area. But certainly ask, set that intention. We'll be speaking more about that as we move on through the talk. But I want you to think about, do you have that support network? Because it is so important for your health, your vitality, and ultimately your spiritual growth. And related to that, is there somebody in your life, as you look around of all the people that you interact with, is there anybody that you know that could benefit from a sense of community, who maybe is feeling isolated and alone right now in their lives? And what can you do to be an angel of change for them and bring your heart and your compassion into ensuring that they feel a sense of community and connectedness and don't suffer from loneliness? So I ask you to look at that. But beyond having a community, I want you to consider who's part of your community. Have you looked at your community lately to see who you might somehow be excluding If you are, why are you? You know, it's easy to surround ourselves with like-minded people, people like ones that share the same spiritual beliefs. Or the big topic, of course, in our country right now is isolating ourselves into like-minded people based on political beliefs. Other times we can find that we keep ourselves with people who have a shared culture that can be based on race or sexual orientation or other social factors, but we tend to find our group and hang with our group. And when we do that, we limit ourselves and our experience of the beautiful gloriousness of the variety of experience here on earth. What I'm calling to do in this message today is you're moving through those three questions. Who's your community? What are those multiple communities? And where are there opportunities for you to grow and expand? Just consider some of this information who came from CNBC business educator Marcus Lemonis. You know, he basically said there's three great reasons for creating diversity within your circle of friends. The first one, he says, is it shatters invisible barriers we may not even know that are existing around us. In fact, Lemonis writes that, have you ever looked at a close group of people and wanting to be a part of their club, but felt as if there was some code to their friendship that you just couldn't crack? This has happened to everybody at some point. That code is a barrier to entry. Every friend group communicates a barrier to the outside world, whether members of that group know about it or not. It can seem inaccessible to outsiders who might not share the same experiences as you. If all your friends are members of the same religion or ethnicity, if all your friends are members of the same group, shared group history, then anyone who is outside of that group might not be familiar with the language you're speaking. That's a difficult thing to overcome. They may not have the tools needed to crack your specific code. When you offer a new person friendship, you're not only allowing them to break about your history, to learn about your history, but you're also gaining access to theirs, to breaking down those invisible barriers that he talks about. The second reason Lemonis says that it's important for us to develop a diversity in our friend group is that you get to share brand new experiences. He writes that they say that travel opens the mind, it makes sense. That when you visit new places, you meet people who live their lives in a manner completely different from yours. I know, as an aside, this is so true for me. I love traveling because I travel and like meeting people and finding how they shop, what they're eating, what they're doing, and finding out that it's not better or worse. It's just different. In fact, many times I bring great joy and wondering and sensing that expressiveness, the differences that these people have. Lemonis also writes that the food they eat, the way they travel, the clothes they wear, when you see where they're coming from, you get to observe the difference between their culture and your own. You become less critical of things you didn't understand before, and you bring that open-mindedness home with you. For all of those same reasons, that's why friends are important. Your group of diverse friends can share food, culture, languages, jokes, lifestyles, and family traditions that you've never seen before, opening up your mind without you having to fly across the world to experience them. So consider who's in your group of friends and where you can expand them. The reason that Lemonis says that it's important to have this diversity is that it gives us access to more information and allows us to have better options and better information when we're making decisions and choices in our individual lives. He writes that the people in our lives teach us how to love, laugh, and treat people. Our friends teach us how to manage relationships and how to interact with peers or dates or bosses. A more diverse group of friends will pull experiences from their varied lives to give you more skills and knowledge than you'd have if all your friendships were uniform. For example, suppose all your friends are single and you need relationship advice. You'd get different answers if all your friends were happily married with children or in long-term relationships. Expand your friend group and you'll get better counseling when you need help. So again, those contemplation questions: who's your community? What different communities are in? And where are there opportunities for you to expand your sense of community? Which brings us into the spiritual side of this. You know, I often talk about when I'm with you, is that we are these human beings, you know, but we're also spiritual beings, and that we live simultaneously in these two worlds of the non-physical and the physical. And as we navigate through and talk about the health challenges to the sense of being lonely, when we talk about the human need for companionship, behind all of this is that spiritual push, that spiritual urge calling us to expand our lives to the greatest and highest expression it can be. Taking steps to expand our circle of friends and include diversity into it expands our tasting this variety of the gift of life on earth. Not only do we spiritually experience life at a greater level and all its richness, but we expand our care and concern for more people. Again, back to those cascading circles. We can see that we have a community that's our close friends, and then the ones that are around us as acquaintances. And as we get out to the city and the state and the planet, that our closeness and care and concern may dissipate a little bit. But as we travel on the spiritual path and we move into that state of the non-physical and sensing our sense of greater oneness to all it is, it also opens our heart to compassion for people who are different from us. Not only does earthly experiences and interacting with people who are different give us that experience that allows us to grow and evolve in our awareness, but as we grow in our sense of oneness on the spiritual side of things, it calls us to a greater sense of love and care for more and more people. It takes us outside those cascading concentric circles and deepens our sense of love for those people out there, even if we're not interacting with them in a personal manner on a day-to-day basis. One of my favorite philosophers is the integral philosopher Ken Wilber. He wrote that the capacity to identify with others is definitely not gained all at once from the start. I think we can identify that. We just don't naturally have this sense of connectedness to other people, and we have to develop and grow it. Wilber goes on to write, the mind has the capacity for inclusiveness through a slow and arduous process. Let me read that again. The mind has to increase its capacity for inclusiveness through a slow and arduous process of growth. And thus this capacity gets a little bigger, moving from what he calls egocentric to ethnocentric, from caring about me to caring about us. And then it gets a little bigger, he says, from ethnocentric to world-centric, from caring about us, my group, to all of us, the world. And then he says it gets even bigger than that we move from being world-centric to what he calls integral or cosmocentric, but it's an inclusiveness that starts to include even other species and the planet and existence itself, that we move from caring about all of us to all of reality. Again, this evolutionary arc that he writes about, and many others have echoed this same statement, is that we grow and evolve from a sense of caring about ourselves to our group and us, to all of us, to all of reality. And this is where we are evolving and growing in our own consciousness on this spiritual path, is a greater and deeper sense of oneness and love and connectedness to the entire planet and all of reality. So the question is, where are you on the evolutionary path? Are you stuck in this egocentric, only caring about yourself? Or do you have just a small group that you care about, and those that you consider the others you exclude and maybe don't have a care and concern for them? Or are you working to expand your care and concern to larger numbers of people? Are you tasting a more expansive world in your awareness so that you can care for those who are different from you? One of the things I want to remind you, though, is that every one of these levels, from the egocentric and caring about yourself to the expansive care of our groups, our broader groups, eventually all humanity and all of existence, is every step is important. That truly to have the healthy sense of love and care and concern for the planet starts with a healthy care and concern for yourself. It starts with that sense of self-love, and we often talk about that in our classes and programs here at Center for Spiritual Living, that we must care and see deeply the importance and value of who we are as individuals. Do you have that sense of care and concern and see yourself as perfect, whole, and complete in this moment? You must anchor into that awareness of self-love and care, but not from an egocentrical side that cares only about yourself to the exclusion of your others, or sees yourself as greater or better than others so that you're dividing yourself. It's a healthy anchor to have a healthy self-love that gives you the strength and basis to expand your love outward. You must first care about yourself. It's only with that sense of strength, knowing the value and importance of yourself, can you now healthily approach the rest of the planet and grow yourselves into that sense of love. The question then becomes, How do you develop that greater sense of community? How do you start expanding this circle outward? How does your concentric circles grow, or your move from caring about me to us to all of everything? How can that be manifest? Well, there's 3 key steps to this. And this is stuff that we teach in all of our classes here at Centers for Spiritual Living. And the first is to set the intention. To set the intention. We have to start with the vision of what it is we're wanting to accomplish. So what I call you today to do is you contemplate those 3 questions of what's your community, what different communities are you in, where are there opportunities to expand your community, is to, in that last question, where there's that opportunity for growth, to look at that and set an intention. Set an intention to expand your circle of care and concern, to expand to more people. Set your intention to grow your circle of friends, to include greater diversity. Secondly, so the first is set the intention. Secondly is to bring that intention into your spiritual processes. We teach the process of visioning here. Use the tool of visioning to expand and tap into Spirit's wisdom to know what is the greatest and highest calling for you in terms of expanding your love and care and concern for the planet. Use our spiritual tool of affirmations to affirm that you're growing a sense of community in your life. Use the tool of spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer as an opportunity to pray each day, knowing and seeing and sensing that expansiveness of community is growing in your individual life. That's the second step. Use spiritual tools. And the third is to walk your talk, is to get out in the world of reality, the world of form, and actually do those things that are going to make this conscious expansion work. Make conscious choices to interact with more people. Say yes to invitations to gatherings that might have challenged your comfort zone because you felt like you wouldn't belong, or it would be different from something that what you normally did. Broaden your connections with others, even online. It doesn't mean you have to agree with people who are different from you, but you do have to open yourself to interacting with them. Approach others with an open heart. Approach others with a sense of curiosity. Want to know about them and their lives. Be a beneficial spiritual presence on this planet in all that you do. See yourself as cascading and flowing love through you. And that with this open heart and open curiosity, every person that you meet is an opportunity to taste the variety of this individual life. See and feel your heart opening to higher and greater levels of love. Be love. In closing, I want to share just a few words from the latest Science of Mind magazine. There's a beautiful one-page article in here by a colleague of mine, the Reverend Dr. Andriette Earle out in Oakland, California. And she talks about her daily walks in the park and herself being an introvert, and how through her daily walks in the park, she first starts interacting with people only in her own mind. She says hi to people. And eventually that comfort level builds up and she begins saying hi to them verbally and expanding that and expanding that. And then with the aspect of an algae taking over their lake, a lot of people stopped coming to the lake and walking the path. And she felt like this group that she was meeting and saying hi to every day on her path was part of her community. It got her out of that sense of being in her own simple circle and expanding that circle outward. And here's what she wrote as she found this algae infestation affecting the people there. She said, "There are already an outspoken agreement on our behavior for how to let runners and bikers pass and how to give way for the dogs and their people, and all the while avoiding birds and their droppings. It's a valued gift that I can move through my community with the freedom and ease of my own pace. The algae infestation, resultant dead fish and bird upset seemed to solidify our connection and set up an odd bonding experience." She wrote, "When I began walking, I behaved as a true introvert. I spoke to other walkers and runners in my mind, never audibly. Over time, I feel more comfortable, safer, and I now make eye contact and greet them aloud. For me, this is connection. I am grateful I created this divine experience, and I fully acknowledge that this sense of lake community exists only in my mind and heart. This is where all sense of community is born." Did you get that point? All community is born in your mind and in your heart. She says, I started walking the lake for my own health and well-being, and I have come to experience what Ernest Holmes said. Love is the greatest healing power in the universe and is the only thing that binds people together in a community of spirit. Let me read that one more time. Love is the greatest healing power in the universe and is the only thing that binds people together in a community of spirit. May we know for every person on this call, they're viewing today and listening or on the recording, that you contemplate these three questions. Who's your community? What multiple communities are you in, and how can you expand those communities? And then look at the tools of setting an intention, using spiritual practices, and then moving your feet in the real world to expand that. But bring your heart and your love into all aspects of your being. Be love, be a beneficial presence. And together we can all create the oneness of community in this life that we're all called to experience. Let's pray. As we go within in this moment, let's simply know that there is only one life, one power, one divine essence that moves in and through everything, giving everything its very being. I know for every person hearing these words that their consciousness shifts to a sense of a oneness, a sense of interconnectedness to all that is, that they expand their circle of care and concern to the greatest and highest number of people, that they continue to grow and evolve in their awareness as they cascade outwards in their mind to seeing and recognizing the community of life that is all around them. That we're all anchored and supported by those individual families that are close to us, that we have that close supporting network of individuals who are there for us and support us and give us the ground of being and support and love that we need to take love outward into the planet. And from that basis of inner and familial support, we look outwards and we grow and connect and just see the glorious gift of every person on this planet and the beauty that they bring. We open our interactions with them with curiosity and a desire to experience life with them and know about them at the deepest essence of our soul. And in doing so, we open this planet to greater and greater levels of love and care and concern for all, and create a world that works for everyone. Thank you, God. Thank you, Spirit. And we release these words knowing that they are so, and so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Mark. Beautiful talk. Be love. So now is our time for our offertory. And we are so, so grateful and blessed for everyone's support of CSL Denver, whether it's in time, treasure, or talent, and especially during these times that are happening right now. So whether this is your first time joining us or you are a returning community participant, we want to thank you for your continued financial support of the important work we are striving to provide. We were just talking before the service this morning about how CSL Denver has managed to stay afloat during the pandemic, and how it's been so important to us to keep our doors open. And that's what we've done, and are so grateful to everybody who has been there to help us. So right now, there are several ways you can make your financial contribution to Center for Spiritual Living Denver. This information is running along the bottom of the screen. There's a text to give. You can send a check to our P.O. box, or you can go online to www.csldenver.org and click on the donate button. Whatever works for you, just is fine and dandy with us. So please take your gift and hold it in your heart and repeat with me the giving affirmation. This perfect gift is spirit and form, circulating and blessing all that it touches. Freely I give, and joyously I receive. And so it is. And we are going to have our usual virtual fellowship on Zoom this morning, and we would love for you to come and join us and let us know how you're doing. So if you didn't receive the Zoom invitation earlier this morning, please send an email to info@csldenver.org and mention fellowship, and we'll send you a Zoom invitation right away. Also, if you would like to hear some good news of the world to offset some of the other stuff going on, we have a link on our Facebook page called And Now the Good News. This program is put together by New Thought Media Network and airs on Fridays at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, or you can watch these anytime during the week. So just go to the Center for Spiritual Living Denver Facebook page and click on any post that says, "And now the good news." And also know that New Thought Media Network has over 40 hours of weekly broadcast programs, including prayer time at 8:15 a.m. and p.m. every day, Wisdom of the Mystics, and Your Doula for Grief, along with New Thought Radio, to name only a few. And we are so grateful that New Thought Media has been here for us, again, during this pandemic and has supported us in keeping our services online and moving smoothly and easily. So meanwhile, we hope you have a wonderful week. We're closing in under the end of 2022. I can't believe it's already the middle of December. And we know right here and right now that 2022 is blessed and perfect in all that it is, as will be 2023. So we love you and we hope to see you soon. Please take care of yourselves. And let's close out with Michael Gott singing, "I Release and I Let Go."
There was a time in my life, thought I had to do it all for myself. Didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. I didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you gotta let it go. Gotta let it go. You gotta let it all go. And this is what you have to say. I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Oh, I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. No more strife. With my faith I see the light. I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Oh, I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm